Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name is Austin Van Churn.
And my name is Patrick Ferry.
And welcome to our show. So, Pat, it was a great week for our Yas. We had a lot of big performances and a lot of goals as well.
That's right. Austin couldn't ask for much more to start off 2020. A lot of players that we haven't been talking about too much, and then also some of our regulars on Young Americans Abroad here.
That's right. It was finally a week where we had just a lot of action. A lot of good talking points. So hey, today we got to talk about a couple of Yas making their long-awaited debuts.
And also a few Americans, Austin, over in Germany, some Bund Americans, you could say, helping their teams start off 2020 strong. So some great talking points there, too.
And finally, we want to finish with a player who recently voiced his interest in playing for the USMNT after a little bit of, a turnaround, Pat. So definitely want to talk about that. So all that and more in today's episode. So we're going to start off today with the player we're all dying to talk about, and that would be Gio Reyna, who made his debut for Dortmund, coming on in the 72nd minute of their exciting game against Augsburg this weekend, Pat. And basically, Dortmund went down against Augsburg. I believe at one point it was 3-1. And then, Dortmund subbed on another debutant in Erling Braut Haaland, the player who used to play for Jesse Marsch, Pat, at Red Bull Salzburg. And he came on, basically helped Dortmund get back to level terms, make it 3-3, then scored the go-ahead goal. And it was at this point that, Gio came on the pitch. And, for Dortmund's fifth goal, he actually had the pass to the assist, Pat. So not a stat that we really, track very often. But it was kind of cool to see his involvement in that goal. And it was cool to see him, obviously debut, got a few touches on the ball, had a nice basically touch down the right wing where, the ball was passed back to him and he quickly touched it with the outside of his left foot. I like that. And, nothing crazy, Pat, in this game to get super hyped about, but, hey, we were really excited to see just Gio get on the pitch for Dortmund.
That's right, Austin. That's a huge, huge deal for American soccer fans. Just because I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but just a similar path with Pulisic. But also, just wanted to mention during, like you said, during his play, he just seems with his physicality, his size, his awareness, even some of the, like you said, the little pass with the outside of his left foot, just the abilities he has is just way above and beyond his age. It's really amazing to see him make this debut and a crazy 5-3 result, which is great for Dortmund, putting up 5 goals. Not so good for Augsburg defense, but again, really good game for him to be involved in. And I think the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, Pat, he's definitely above the players in his age group. Someone else who's kind of said that is Lucien Favre, his coach. Lucien Favre, and even some of the Dortmund, technical staff there have really commented on how Gio is kind of a world-class prospect for his age group. So definitely, exciting times here coming up, for Gio. And, just
that's something coming from Dortmund staff, Austin. That's from words from those kind of that technical staff. That's really saying something.
Yeah, and it was. I don't want to get too, fuel the hype train too much.
Right.
Basically, there was a comment earlier in the week from a piece that was put out that was basically, I think it was either Michael Zorc or Jans Joachim Watzke, the two kind of people in charge of Dortmund's team. One of them said that Gio was even better of a prospect than Christian Pulisic. So.
Ooh.
That's from their mouths, not mine.
That's right. That's from there.
Yeah, like you said, Pat, before, like these are people who've been around some of the best players in the world, and obviously have worked, 3+ years with Christian Pulisic. So to hear that praise from them definitely is high praise. So yeah, and kind of, Pat, like you said earlier, just to compare Christian and Gio a little bit, Christian Pulisic made his debut for Dortmund on January 30th of 2016. So basically that year for Christian, he spent all fall with the U19s, got called up multiple times in the fall to first team training with Dortmund, then went to their winter training camp in Marbella, just like Gio did this year. Got some playing time in a few friendlies. I believe also scored in a friendly, just like Gio did. And it wasn't Christian's, or I should say it wasn't Dortmund's first game back from winter break, but it was like their second or third. And Christian came on and made his debut for them. And Gio obviously came on, in the very first game back for Dortmund from their winter training period. So, a little ahead of the curve, I guess, but not crazy. And, we also got to say, too, that Gio made or set the record for the youngest American ever play in the Bundesliga, beating out Christian Pulisic's mark. So I believe Gio was 17 years and 69 days old. So, Pat, even more, praise for Gio and just crazy to see another American kind of break out in the Bundesliga and look to really kind of cement his stamp on the game over in Germany and kind of get his career off and started.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's really great to see, and I guess just moving forward too for this half of the season here, starting 2020. I guess I want to get your take too, but I feel like just being ahead of the curve and don't want to hype it too much, but it really seems like for what Lucien Favre and everyone's been saying and how he's such a great prospect and just integrating him with the team here now, I would really like it and almost, I don't even know if expect is the right phrase or term, but just expect him to be really involved moving forward, whether it's substitute appearances here and there. It'd be nice to even see him get some starts, but at least really stay with the first team.
Yeah, it's a good question to have. How much of Gio will we see with Dortmund going forward in the spring? And like you said, Pat, I think Lucien Favre is very high on him. He's praised him a lot in the media, and he's a coach that really doesn't give out praise all that often, from what I've heard. So I definitely think he rates Gio, and I think Gio will definitely get a lot more substitute appearances this spring. And to be honest, Pat, I think it's more just what Gio does with them. If he looks good in the appearances and can maybe get on the score sheet or assist someone on a goal here or there, then I think it'll just breed more and more playing time. And I don't know. I'm really, really high on Gio. It looks like he's really grown into I guess just a first team role there at Dortmund. The thing that's really impressed me so far with his rise at Dortmund is how comfortable he looks now with that first team. You could see him, especially in the game, even this weekend, calling for the ball in certain situations, telling players, instructions when he was on the pitch, just things like that. Like even after the game, dapping up Erling Braut Haaland after he's got the game ball for the hat trick. Just little things like that really show his growing professionalism and just how comfortable he is with the Dortmund team. And I think that, coupled with his obviously his super ability and just the support he has at Dortmund as well, I think he'll get a lot of playing time this spring, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Just the little things I think is really important. Just when I'm looking at players too, I guess just to see them at the next level and with the national team and the kind of culture that Berhalter and everyone's trying to create. I think we need, people, players like Gio Reyna who can kind of come in, ignite the flames, have some passion, maybe have some orders, directing people on the field, things like that, whether that's in training or the locker room. But he just seems like he has a really good aura about him. And obviously his skill set has proven that he can play at the top with the best players. So just hoping for all the best for him moving forward. Yeah,
we can't really say much more. It's crazy to see someone so young, get a chance at a big club like Dortmund. 17 years and 69 days old. That's a baby, Pat.
Unreal. Austin, unreal. As we were playing pickup games with some of our friends on the high school field.
Yeah, now he's playing in front of 80,000 fans.
Yeah.
Derby. It's crazy, man. So very cool to see, and we're really excited for him and wish him the best, and hopefully a even bigger, more games, more and more moments to come in 2020. So Pat, let's move over to another top 5 league and talk about another debutant this weekend.
That's right, Austin, and that is none other than Indiana Vassilev. So really exciting to see him with Aston Villa get his Premier League debut. And just a fun fact, I think he was the second youngest American to ever play in the Premier League. And who was first? And I didn't even know that, so we were talking off camera, but it was Jonathan Spector who was first. So that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, really. That's crazy. But hey, good for him.
Yeah, exactly. Good for him. But yeah, I mean, just to highlight the performance there, it was a 1-1 draw against Brighton, and he came on in the 67th minute, I believe, and he replaced Trezeguet. Dean Smith brought him on, the manager, really had some trust in him, has been kind of with the first team a little bit here more, and he came on and was really praised for his energy, just his commitment and, ability to put pressure on the defense there, which is great to see, and actually made a run, I believe, to open up, pull defenders away and open up a space for Grealish to get that game-tying goal. So really exciting to see him be involved there, get some minutes, and just some more minutes, especially in the Premier League, because Austin, just wanted to highlight, he first played in the FA Cup game, I think back in early January. Right. I think it was January 4th. Against Fulham, which they lost, but he got in the last 10 minutes, and then an EFL Cup game against Leicester. I think he played about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or so. Didn't look too great in those performances, but he really improved for this one, the Premier League, and I think that's just great to see a player make that U23 jump, which is kind of hard to do. Some people get stuck in that cycle there, and we saw Brooks Lennon. Just with the Liverpool U23s, but really good to see, Indiana make that jump.
Yeah, and another player, blast from the past, Mark Pelosi, who actually just
right.
He just retired, I think, because of injury, unfortunately. So, it's definitely tough to break in, in England at that Premier League level. So, definitely not something to snooze at for Indiana Vassilev, but. We'll just have to see more of him. He's had a good record this year in the U23 Premier League. I don't know if you have those stats off the top of your head, Pat, but I think he scored something like 8 goals, I think, in 10 to 12 games maybe. So it's he's had a really good season there. And at the moment, Aston Villa are just, decimated at the attacker position. Had a lot of injuries this year. Wesley was their star striker. He's gone down. John McGinn, who is a midfielder that they kind of threw around everywhere, he's gone down. I believe there's 1 or 2 more injuries as well that I'm not even thinking about. But, injuries, Pat, breed opportunities. And it looks like Indiana's kind of, taken his opportunity as it's come to him. He definitely seems like he's a player that is a hard worker. And that's something that Aston Villa fans are, kind of praising him for and delayed to see from him. So hopefully, he can keep getting on the field because of that. And then hopefully, even get on the score sheet here coming up.
That's right, Austin. Yeah, just because, again, Aston Villa, like you said, are just in dire need for, those attackers, especially in their situation. And Indiana, actually, just want to mention, too, positionally wise, I think we talked a little bit, but he was more now has been shifting to kind of the left wing primarily, and then also he featured, I think it was in the EFL Cup as a center forward. So interesting to kind of see them move him around a little bit. But again, nice to see him get on the field in any kind of position, I guess you could say. I know you mentioned too, there was a Belgian striker from Ghent, I believe, or one of those teams that they just recently brought in. So that could be a little concerning.
Yeah, it was just announced today. I don't think he's Belgian. I think he's from Sierra Leone or somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But he played in Belgium at Genk. Got to find his name real quick. I think it was Mabwana Ali Samada. So if you play FIFA, you might be familiar with him. But basically a player that will play primarily as a number 9 striker for Aston Villa. So, obviously kind of like you said, Pat, Indy's been playing all across the front three positions, at the U23 level and also now at the first team with Aston Villa. So it could influence Indy's playtime, and obviously if players get healthy too. And, Aston Villa are kind of in a relegation fight at the moment. They're like teetering on the relegation line at the moment. So we'll have to see, what they do. But hopefully this doesn't impact Indy's time too much, and hopefully can continue to get minutes.
That's right, Austin. Yeah, that's all we can hope for, just because, again, this is a player that has kind of been, at least, I wouldn't say completely under the radar, but a little bit as compared to some other prospects and other players we've been talking about. But it's just nice to see kind of his rise slowly here. And I think, again, if he can just kind of surpass that U23 level, which it seems like he's doing, and just be with the first team, and the second half of the season here, just get some minutes, whether it's substitute appearances or just making the bench, things like that. I think that would really set him up for a really strong next season. I think would be a great goal for him to really integrate with the team, and hopefully, like you said, they're in that relegation battle, but hopefully they can stay up, because that'd be just fantastic to develop in the Premier League.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think that's all we have for Indy, Pat. I think we'll now move over to Germany and talk about Tyler Adams. So Tyler got 2020 started off great. Obviously, he's back from injury, which is, great to hear, Pat. That was something that we really wanted to see for this upcoming season or upcoming.
Finally.
And in this game, he started in that center mid position after he started at right back to end 2019 in Leipzig's final game. So it was good to see him back there. And played 86 minutes, and this was in a 3-1 win for Leipzig over Union Berlin. So Union Berlin came out kind of firing in this game. It looked like Leipzig were a little rusty right off the jump. Tyler kind of included in that. But as the game grew on, and especially towards the end of the first half there, Tyler and Leipzig really started to get into a groove. And Tyler had really two nice, I guess you'd call them key passes at the end of that first half, where basically they were like nice through balls that led players into the box for opportunities. But unfortunately, both players for those passes were unable to finish. So that was good to see. Just was really solid defensively in this game. Did a really good job of tracking back, cutting off passing lanes, winning possession back in the middle of the field, middle of the park. All the things that, Pat, we're used to seeing Tyler Adams do, they were present in this game. So, strong start to 2020 for Tyler. So
Austin, I think that's really all we could ask for, especially for Tyler Adams, and how rough 2019 you could say, just with a horrible injury just a horrible injury to recover from, and just being able to kind of get back in the team. And again, he not saying he's hasn't completely skipped a beat, shaking off some rust, but really just getting right back in the lineup and making such an impact, for such a high-level Bundesliga team as RB Leipzig. It's really important, Austin, I think. Just I think if we just, fingers crossed here, if there's just wood nearby, knock on some wood, that he can stay healthy, because I would love to see him, again, thrive with Leipzig here, and then also just be such a crucial part, for the senior team in 2020.
Yeah, and Leipzig are, in first in the Bundesliga right now. I believe 4 points clear at the top after this weekend. So, really good to see him, like you said, Pat, walk right into that starting lineup to start the spring part of the season here. And, I got to echo what you said, Pat. We want to see Tyler healthy for the USMNT and play in that number 6 role. And it's interesting.
Please play in that 6.
Yeah, we got to see him in that 6. We can't see him as a right back coming up the field, offensively and tracking back to defend. It's just, that's not the role that Tyler can excel in.
Yeah, you and I are definitely on the same page in that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of other people are too, thank goodness. But, we have Serginho Dest as a right back. We have Reggie Cannon. We have plenty of other capable right backs. We don't have too many capable center mids or, players that can do what Tyler can do in the middle. So I guess with that being said, the other thing I wanted to mention, Pat, real quick was Michael Bradley was in the news today because apparently he needs ankle surgery based on an injury that he suffered in the MLS Cup final. So the MLS Cup final happened, I believe, like either November 1st or November 10th, but basically in the beginning of November. And I guess the training staff at Toronto FC, diagnosed the injury, thought it would heal over time, and apparently it hasn't, Pat. And Michael Bradley will now be out for another 4 months after, undergoing surgery today. So
brutal. That's brutal.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's a bad situation for Michael, and this is a Toronto staff that had issues with, I guess, Josie Altidore's, fitness last year and trying to get him back healthy. So that's a whole, mess of a situation. But hopefully, this unfortunate situation that, we find ourselves in, or, Michael Bradley finds himself in, will lead to, Tyler Adams getting played at the number 6 position, in March when we play, I believe it's the Netherlands and Wales, Pat. So hopefully we can, see Tyler take the field there in those at that position.
Yeah, those are 2 high-level teams for some friendlies, and like you said, it'd just be kind of crucial, I guess, to see him before the qualifying comes up. Integrate in that slot, in his favorite position, which we all think he would really thrive in, and that maybe Berhalter would see that with the compliments of McKennie and Pulisic and whatnot, and just see how the team and the whole engine operates, and what Adams is doing at Leipzig to translate over to the senior team could only lead to great things. So yeah, I think all for that.
Yeah, you make a great point that it would be a good test run because we've got 6 World Cup qualifiers coming up this year. So
that's right.
You gotta get our stuff together quick for those games because that's 60% of the World Cup qualifying cycle. Like we could literally find out by the end of this year whether or not we're in a good position to make the World Cup or not. So yeah, great stuff from Tyler to start off 2020. And I think we can move on, Pat. Where are we going next?
That's right. We're going over to the Netherlands, or Holland, you could say, Austin, with Richy Ledezma and young PSV. So just wanted to highlight over the weekend, he scored 2 goals. Unfortunately, they did lose 4-2 to Volendam, but nonetheless, 2 goals is fantastic for Ledezma. And just to highlight the goals for you guys, I think Scuff tweeted out some highlight videos, but the first one was really nice. He was kind of on the left side of the field, cut into the right, still way outside the 18, and delivered a nice strike, a beautiful curler into the upper 90s there on the right side. And then the second goal was really just good, I guess you could say smart intuition, I guess, from the defending side, and being able to read the game and read the move early. And Volendam were passing their defenders just in the back, and he cut it off right in the middle, almost a counter on his own. Had really just, I think, 1 or 2 to pass, which was easy for him with his speed, and then just calmly put it by the goalie one-on-one. So fantastic 2 goals. But I think in the 71st minute, or the end of the second half there, excuse me, he kind of hobbled off and limped off with an injury. There's not much more that I could find on that, Austin, but just a little concerning. But nonetheless, a really fantastic game for him. And obviously young PSV lost, but great to see Ledezma thriving on that level.
Yeah, and that was, I believe, down a man too. So when he scored,
that's right.
That's pretty impressive. And young PSV are not doing hot this year, but it seems like Richie's kind of rising above all their poor play, from other players on the team. So that's always good.
Right. And that's another thing, I guess, just the amount of goals we're giving up. And I'm not blaming everyone, in the back line, but it is a little concerning because we want to see Gloster, do really well. And again, it has the whole, it's not just one person, the whole back line, but he did play a full 90 and they did give up 4 goals, nonetheless down to 10 men, Austin, like you said. But again, I think it's really nice to see Ledezma. And we just, I don't know. I know we were talking about this a little bit off camera, but just he seems a little bit. I think he has 4 goals and maybe 1 or 2 assists, and just really dominating. I think this second division level. Yeah, because they're right below, than the Eredivisie there, but it just seems like he really is in that weird in between stage where we really want to see him with the first team and make that jump. But I know you mentioned that PSV isn't doing so well right now. Maybe they don't want to bring any players in. He has been a little bit involved in training with the first team and things like that, but just really want to see him kind of make that full jump.
Yeah, he's in a weird position, and PSV are kind of in a weird position too, because like you said, Pat, PSV, I believe, are in like 4th or 5th in the Eredivisie, which, they're usually in, 1st or 2nd.
Right.
Young PSV right now, I believe, are in 18th in the Eredivisie. So they're not doing so hot. So it's hard to really justify calling up players from that team, since they're not doing well as PSV. So, it's weird because I think Richy's played very well for young PSV this year. And obviously, you could credit maybe some of the goals to, poor defending, and maybe Richy plays a part in maybe not focusing so much on his, the defensive part of his game. Maybe that's kind of what we're not seeing in some of these highlights. But it's just weird. He played in a few, I think it was 1 or 2 friendlies over the winter training break, and was one of only like 4 or 5 players called up to that first team, training stint in the winter. So he's definitely making an impact, and definitely a player that's kind of being looked at to be called up to the first team. But, at the moment, he's still with young PSV. So, hopefully we'll just have our fingers crossed, Pat, that, PSV kind of go all in on him at some point here.
That's right. That's all we can, again, just fingers crossed, Austin, and hope the situation continues, and hopefully Ledezma's okay again from that little injury. I haven't heard too much, so maybe that's a good thing. But if he can just continue the second half, and hopefully they can climb up a little bit, young PSV. But I don't see why any reason for the next season, for the start of like I said, the next season there, that Ledezma is not fully part of that first team. I think that would be a really good goal for him.
Yeah, I agree completely. So, now let's head over to Germany once again and talk about Josh Sargent. So Josh started for Bremen in what was probably their most important game of the season, Pat, and that was against Dusseldorf. So Josh played 86 minutes, and it was a 1-0 win for Bremen, so huge win. It helps them climb out of the I guess what you'd call the true relegation position, and they're now in the relegation playoff position. So there's some life now again. And it was, overall it was a very sloppy game. These were 2 teams at the bottom of the table kind of scrapping it out. And, Josh didn't have his best game either. It was obviously very good to see him get the start here after he scored, a brace in their final preseason, winter training friendly, I guess you'd call it. So it was good to see him start. Didn't have the best game, had a lot of loose touches, and, just overall it was a sloppy game. So it was tough to really get him on the ball for long stretches. And when he was on the ball in this game, it wasn't great either. It's really hard to kind of critique him just because, Bremen aren't playing with great confidence right now, Pat. It's kind of tough to be a striker on a team like this because you're basically, defending for most of the game. And then when you get in attack or get in possession of the ball, there's a lot of players kind of doing their own thing or, just not on the same page as other teammates. So
right.
Don't be too harsh on Josh's performance in this game. But yeah, it wasn't great. It was definitely one of his, worst games of the season. And obviously it's the first game back from winter. So, hey, Bremen got the win. They accomplished the goal that they set out to accomplish. But, it wasn't the best. But, I don't want to rag on them too much.
And I just want to, like you said, I think just a really important point that I wanted to harp on and kind of piggyback on you there is just again, obviously expect a little more from Josh, but just the environment that they're in right now, it just has such kind of like a great win. But I know like when you're at the bottom, they're really struggling, and a lot of, just negative energy, or just, players are kind of maybe out for themselves. They're not really working cohesively as a team or as a unit. And again, like you said, that's just really hard thing to be a part of as a striker, because obviously you can track back to a certain extent, but like I don't know, it's just a different scenario, because sometimes you're sitting up top and there's not much you can do, and you're not getting the ball or good service, things like that, and that can maybe mess with your mind a little bit, psychologically, things like that. And then just kind of maybe also playing into that the fold, if the players around you aren't doing very well, you have those sloppy touches like you mentioned. And again, don't want to harp too much, and it is just grinding my gear a little bit, Austin, but I just really wish that, hopefully Bremen can come out of here, stay in the first division here, and really kind of revamp and reset their lineup, and almost kind of do what Schalke's kind of doing in a way. And just, I know we were talking how Schalke struggled really badly last year, but just kind of at least, give Josh some help around him, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny because I was literally just going to say that Bremen reminded me a little bit of Schalke last year, where everyone was kind of doing their own thing. They weren't very cohesive. There wasn't a lot of communication. And, it's got to be tough for especially a striker in that position, because, you're relying upon the service of your teammates for most of your opportunities that are, going to be presented to you. So, tough. And, hopefully, obviously Bremen hopefully stay up, but hopefully they can maybe get a new identity going into next season. I'm not like Florian Kofeld's their manager right now. I haven't been super impressed with the way he's used Josh Sargent, and I'm not super high on him. So in my opinion, if Bremen, even if they stay up, I think maybe they should look in a different direction. But we'll have to keep an eye on it, Pat, and hopefully things change for Josh.
That's right. That's all I can hope for, Austin. But unless you had anything additional to add, but if you wanted to move on over to France for a player that has expressed some interest between a few, France and the U.S., but now seems to be kind of shifting a little bit back to the red, white, and blue here.
That's right, and it's a player that we've gotten, a few requests on to talk about. So now that hey, he's publicly stated his interest and how he's kind of open now to the USMNT, we'll cover him again, and that would be Jordan Siebatcheu. So Jordan, if you don't know, plays for Stade de Rennes, or Stade Rennes. I'm not sure which it is, but Stade Rennes over in France in Ligue 1. And he's a striker, 23-year-old. Is primarily played for France in the past. Was on the French U21 team, I believe, Pat, and also holds, I guess, a Cameroon passport as well as a U.S. passport. Passport because he was born in Washington D.C. So this was a player that we, I guess, tried to call up in the past. Basically declined the call up, said he was good, was focused on playing for France. And, now in a recent interview with Brian Shreda, I have a quote here that he said, basically, if the U.S. called me up again, I would be proud, and it would likely end different. Maybe it would be a good time now. So, Pat, it sounds like, Jordan has interest now in the U.S. Do you think that's a good thing? Are you excited about the prospect of him playing for us, or are you kind of more concerned that, maybe we're not his first option?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Initially, I was a little concerned that we weren't the first option, and just, didn't want the case. And they were talking before, but like a Timmy Chandler, maybe even the Fabian Johnson, some certain instances where maybe they don't have the same, or not to say the same passion, commitment. But like, the commitment, exactly. That's a better term. But I'm just kind of flip flopping, obviously, between World Cup winners France, which is great, that you want to strive for, which kind of makes sense. But at the same time, you kind of convinced me in a way, Austin, just because in terms of our forwards and our striker department, that we're kind of lacking the attacking, piece for the U.S. team, and that he could be a crucial piece, because obviously he's had a few, I think I mentioned here, a few thigh injuries two thigh injuries that made him miss a significant amount of time. But there's been points in his career where he's really kind of, revived himself in the second tier, and then even just getting this move here for a little north of 10 million, that he really has the skills and that end product that you need in a striker.
Yeah, and striker is a position where we can count kind of the prospects we have on our one hand.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, you look at it, it's basically Josh Sargent, Jesus Ferreira, some people like Mason Toy, you have people like Emmanuel Savi, Jeremy Bobase, but even younger, maybe like Ricardo Pepi, some players like that. But it's really tough to kind of see clear prospects that we can kind of feel confident in playing for the full men's national team someday. So I think if we can add another player of this caliber to the pool at a position where we're desperately in need of just depth in general, I think it's a smart move. I don't know. What do you think, Pat? You think?
Yeah, no, I think it is a smart move. Just in terms of that factor there, and it was just kind of funny that I was reading here that I guess in 2018 when he was approached by the Sargent era and that staff, obviously that was the time. Like you mentioned, that he kind of turned it down, or not really turned it down, but just really focused on his club career and getting back. And we don't blame him for that in the France opportunities as well. But again, like you said, I think it would be really great to have somebody that's playing for, I think he has 15 appearances, only a few starts, but again, kind of coming back from that injury points with the thighs and really getting back into a team that's sitting in third, Austin League One, that's in a Champions League spot there, and I think only 3 or 4 points off from second. So Rennes really in a good position, and if he can kind of if he can insert himself back into the starting lineup there and get some more minutes, that'd be such a great addition to the team.
Yeah, and hey, it makes maybe some sense now why he hasn't really been getting on the field. Sitting in third, obviously the players who are kind of playing are kind of getting. Yeah. And maybe it's not such a good thing because you want your player on the field making an impact. But at the same time, I think a player in the Ligue 1 category, or caliber of player would be a welcome addition to our roster at the moment. So wow, that's really cool. So yeah, we're all on board, and now that it seems like he's interested in the U.S., we'll be covering him again because he's under that 25 age that we set up. So with that being said, Pat, let's move over to quick kicks.
All right, all you viewers, it's my favorite time of the show. I hope it's Austin's, but I definitely know it's you guys your favorite time of the show as well. It's none other than quick kicks.
So you could test Dwayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
All right, guys. So to start off quick kicks, we're heading over to the English Championship, where Duane Holmes actually scored the game-tying goal in a 2-2 draw against Middlesbrough for Derby, and that was actually his first goal of the season. So congrats to Duane.
And moving over to Spain, we have Shaq Moore, who played the final 13 minutes for Tenerife in their 1-0 win over Girona. So good to see for Shaq.
Nice, Austin. And heading over to England in League One, Lynden Gooch in Sunderland. He actually picked up an assist in a 4-0 win against the Wycombe Wanderers. So a really big, crucial win for Sunderland there.
It's good to see from Gucci, bro. Moving over to Germany, we have Chris Richards, who started and played 90 minutes in Bayern 2's 5-0 friendly win. So Chris started at center back, which is good to see. He's been playing right back for a lot of the year. And, good for Chris.
Awesome. And heading over to Spain, Austin, when we're talking about Konrad de la Fuente, an interesting topic nowadays, actually scored in a 5-0 win for Barcelona Juvenil A. And it'll be interesting to see. Barca just kind of upped his contract. We're waiting for him to respond. But, there's some interest potentially from Hertha. But we'll kind of see what goes on there.
That's right. And moving on to another player who could be on the move soon, and that would be Sebastian Soto. So Sebastian started and scored a goal in Hanover's 3-3 friendly draw. So good to see him, getting playing time and back on the score sheet for Hanover after last week's manager's comments. So, yeah.
That's right, Austin. Yeah, it's good to see, definitely. And heading over to Belgium, Chris Durkin actually started and played the full 90 in a 2-0 win for Sint-Truiden against KB Kortrijk. So congrats to Chris getting some starts here.
And moving down to Mexico, we have Sebastian Saucedo, who started and played 87 minutes in Pumas's 4-4 draw with Juarez. So good to see Sebastian getting on the field and could be a big part of this U23 qualifying cycle.
Awesome news, Austin. And heading over to the Netherlands with young Ajax, Alex Mendez started, played the full 90, and actually scored a penalty, I think, in the second half there in a 2-0 win against Dordrecht. So congrats to Alex Mendez there. It's always good stuff to get in the score sheet. And now, Austin, kind of shifting over to a different young, but a young PSV here. With Chris Gloster, started and played the full 90. And unfortunately, like we mentioned earlier in the episode, they lost 4-2 to Volendam. They were down 10 men, but it's good to see Chris continue to get some minutes. Yeah, it's good to see. It was good to really see Alex Mendez put in a good performance today and score his first goal. So yeah, we've been waiting for him to really take advantage of his playing time at Young Ajax. So it sounds that's right.
Today was a big day for him. And moving over to England, we have Charlie Kelman, our boy. And he started, played 75 minutes, and scored a goal for Southend United in their 2-1 win. So go on, Charlie. We're rooting for you. Nice,
Austin. And Patrick Leal for Sporting's U17s. They're actually in Saudi Arabia right now, and they're playing Al Hilal. And he actually scored the game-winning goal in a 1-0 win. So congrats to Patrick there.
So that's it for today, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe down below to our channel.
And don't forget to check out our social media pages, our Instagram and Twitter. Again, we're always providing great content, especially now with a lot of players back from injury, Austin, which we mentioned here, even the rise of Reyna and, Vassilev, and even just seeing Tyler Adams back on the pitch dominating. There's some great content going on, so you don't want to miss that for 2020 here.
That's right. We got Tim Weah coming back too from injury, Christian Pulisic hopefully coming back from injury. So definitely a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about it every week in great detail, maybe more detail than you really want to hear. But we're here to talk through what's going on in the USMNT world. So with that being said, Pat, I think there might be only one thing left to say.
Yeah, I think there really is only one thing left to say. And, it all starts here with everyone coming back, like you said, healthy, free of injury, fingers crossed, all you YA viewers. Because it's just a really crucial year. We got Olympic qualifying. We got the World Cup qualifiers, some important friendlies, like we mentioned earlier, with Wales and Netherlands. And it's all, going to one thing, one final goal.
That's right. One day we will win that World Cup.